I wonder how Bill really feels. Wow. Unbelievable. That was great. One more time, Billy. I can't wait for the letters. But I'm an editor. I like to read. You know, here at FDIC, we couldn't do what we do without a tremendous amount of help, as you all know, from all the fire departments that help us, the manufacturers and the vendors. We've got such tremendous partners, the team of people who work on it, all our great friends, all of you all who contribute to the magazine and who give us great ideas about what to do at the show. But some partners really rise above all the others, and they do things that we don't even ask them to do. They make overtures to us. They do some really fantastic, just some fantastic things that you just can't expect people would do those kinds of things. One of those partners that we have here is the local IFD union, and their union president, Wayne Smith, was in the room. I don't embarrass him, make him blush, but we do some things like the Courage and Valor 5K fun run. And a lot of people say that they walk the walk and talk the talk, or they back themselves up by their actions. But when we started doing that a few years ago, Wayne stepped right up, and he put the union money behind that activity, because Wayne knows that healthy firefighters are safer firefighters. So he sponsors every single IFD runner through their union activities and fundraisers. But he did that without anybody asking him, because he understands firefighter safety comes first and foremost with having healthy, well taken care of, and well supported firefighters. Wayne Smith's in the audience. Would please stand, Wayne. He lends us his union hall, he gives us support, he gives us his people, he's a man of his word, he's an honest guy. That's leadership. He doesn't ask for a bunch of limelight, he doesn't have to throw his name out there, and he just shows up when he needs to show up. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the kind of guy we need at the front of the organizations. This is like the best part of my job. I get to introduce all these like super great people. Makes me feel like a sack of garbage, but they're really great people. So this is really fun for me. It's my honor this morning to be allowed to introduce a longtime leader, a longtime innovator, and a longtime friend of the fire service, and of FDIC and fire engineering, and every firefighter in America. He has spent a lifetime tirelessly trying to improve our working conditions, our compensation, and our welfare. General President Harold Schaitberger is the 9th president of the IAFF. He has served as the general president for us since 2000. He's a former Fairfax County, Virginia firefighter, and in 1976, he created the union's political and legislative programs. He's on the AFL-CIO Executive Committee, and he's the vice president of the AFL-CIO Executive Council. He's the chairman of the board of the IAFF Burn Foundation, and he's a board member for the IAFF Fallen Firefighters Memorial. It gives me tremendous pleasure to welcome back home to FDIC again our General President. Please welcome me in joining and my mouth is broken today. Please help me in welcoming our good friend, the General President of the IAFF, Harold Schaitberger.
Thank you. Thank you, Bobby. It's always a privilege to be here at the nation's largest gathering of fire service leaders. And for me, what makes this FDIC such a great venue is that it's all the components of our fire service, of our firefighting family. Firefighters, fire officers, command, management, labor. They all converge on Indianapolis for this informative and cutting-edge conference. So, Bobby, I congratulate you on another great event, and I wish everybody a successful week. I also just want to take a second to introduce and recognize two great leaders within our union. You know, with 300,000 members and over 3,000 locals, 50 state councils, 7 Canadian provincials, it takes leadership to really represent our members' interests. And so I certainly want to recognize the president of our Indianapolis Local 415, and that is Wayne Smith. Wayne, thank you for all you do. Congratulations on the work that you've been doing on behalf of our members. And fighting the fights here in Indiana and making sure that our members are represented and their agenda is advanced is our State Council President, Tom Hannafy. Tom, thank you for your leadership. As you might imagine, I am very proud of my members. I'm very proud to simply have been one of them and still one of them. And I'm proud of the tens of thousands of those members that have attended this conference over the years. I always just like to get a sense how many members, if I have some members in the audience. So everybody who is an IFF member, would you raise your hand for a second? Oh, that's a great turnout. Well, that's incredible, and it's great to see so many of you here today. Sisters and brothers, and ladies and gentlemen, whether you're a career or volunteer firefighter, whether you're a line officer, paramedic, EMS professional, or a chief officer, we really did all start out with the same goals, the same interests. Well, we wanted to serve our community. Bill laid that out pretty clearly in his terrific remarks just a moment ago. And yeah, we want to protect our friends and our neighbors. We're committed to saving property and saving lives. The fact is that every one of us just really wanted the opportunity to jump and ride a rig. Today, our ability to accomplish that objective is being thwarted by short-sighted politicians and their allies looking to chop funding and support for emergency services and looking to gut our fundamental rights and silence our political voices. Last year, I had the opportunity to stand on this stage, and I talked about the threats that were on the horizon while we were in the grip of the worst economic crisis this country has experienced since the Great Depression. I talked about the threats that we were going to be facing at every level of government, federal, state, and local. Threats that would impact our staffing, threats that would impact our training programs, threats that would threaten our fire prevention and public education efforts, those that would make cuts in our federal and state aid. And yes, for those of us where the fire service is a full-time career, threats and battles by those ruthlessly trying to kill and destroy our retirement and pension plans. When we last gathered here in Indy, I said that the IFF was mobilizing, that we were preparing for the battles, and that we would be willing to use our resources to defend our members and our profession in this service. And I invited you and your parent organizations to join us in these battles. I said there was a violent storm on the way, that we could clearly see it in the horizon. Well, that storm has clearly arrived. And since the elections just 4 short months ago, the political landscape in this country has been transformed. And we've seen an ideological shift of historic proportions. And that shift isn't very friendly to the American Fire Service. New members of Congress, new governors, new state legislators who rode a wave of public anger and public fear, rode that wave into office, are taking aim at us. They're taking aim at all of us. This new breed of politician feels very comfortable blaming you for their deficits and cheapening the vital life-saving work that firefighters and paramedics do in cities and towns, large and small, rural and urban, across this great country of ours. This is nothing less than the most comprehensive, organized, coordinated assault on our rights, resources, programs that we have fought for, you have fought for, and won over the decades in Washington, D.C. and in state capitals all across our nation. For my IAFF brothers and sisters, It is also the most vicious, direct frontal attack on workers' rights and our union that I've ever witnessed in the 40 years that I've had the privilege to serve as a union officer. Simply put, many newly elected officials in Congress and state legislatures don't believe that they should have any responsibility for helping to fund local emergency services. They want to turn the spigot off. And if that means career firefighters get laid off, so be it. And if that means volunteers don't get fuel subsidies or can't get bunker gear replaced, so be it. And if that means that communities' safety will suffer and people may die, so be it. No, because this gang wants either smaller government or, as they rail day after day in so many cases that we see, they don't want any government at all. And whether you like it or not, whether you hold this as a job or not, firefighting is an essential part of our society. Firefighters are an essential part of our government. And we depend on government support at all levels. We depend on government funding at all levels. And the fact is that we all serve as one of the cornerstones of government and the reason it's established. It's really that simple. And so as we face these battles, I'm suggesting to you that it's no longer possible to say, hey, I'm a firefighter, but I don't care about politics. I know who my members are. I suspect I know who you are in this room. We are a cross-section of America. We are Republicans and we're Democrats. We're conservatives and we're moderate. And there's a great sliver of us that thinks politics is all just a bunch of crap. And we don't want anything to do with it. We don't have the luxury to say, hey, just let me do my job. Just let me make my runs. I don't want to get involved. As I've always told our members and our leadership over these years, elections matter. And elections have consequences. And if you're not in the political arena, we all lose. The fire service loses, and our community loses. And now this new breed of politician is simply taking aim. They're taking aim at us, not just our profession, but they're taking aim at those of us that have chosen a career to represent the interest of those who engage in this honorable work. No, now they simply want to take and attack our union. No, they're pursuing all kinds of legislation to try to simply cripple us. They want to eliminate dues deduction in Alabama, Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Florida, now ready to take the next shots. All of this isn't about helping the public or doing anything about budgets. This is about destroying our ability to do our work on behalf of our members in this profession. Now, they're pushing bills in 15 states to simply silence our political voice, to prevent us from operating in that arena where everybody is elected that has all the power and makes all the decisions. They get to hold the goal, and they want to silence our voice. They hope this tactic will simply cripple our ability to advance our members' agenda. But I'm going to tell my members here and anybody else who's interested in this room that nothing is going to quiet this union, nothing is going to silence our voice. Our political voice and the work and the battle of this IAFF will go on to improve our members' lives. And we intend to fight. We intend on fighting for our members' rights, and we intend on fighting for the fire service. And so all of you can simply do what you've chosen to do your jobs, and to do them safely, and to do them with adequate resources, and to do them so that you can go home to your families after you've finished your service and duty to your communities. No, these attacks are coming fast and furious. They're coming from every direction. They're coming all across every region in this country. But I will tell you this union has been here since 1918, and we have faced adversity before. And as God is my witness, we are not going to sit back. We're not going to watch our enemies try to destroy our union, our members' livelihoods, or this fire service. We're not going to let them bankrupt everything that you try to do. And so we are ready to fight back, and we're going to do it with everything we have. We're going to be taking a look at Congress. And let's just take a look at this Congress. Only a couple of months in session. Think back, 2000, the year 2000, we celebrated the Fire Act. 2002, we celebrated the SAFER Act, both becoming law, both providing incredible resources to our profession. And over the last decades, they've pumped no less than billions of dollars into our fire departments, volunteer and career. Everyone in this room knows the value of these programs and beyond. But I'll give you two examples of the mindless attacks that our enemies are now waging. First, in running for the chairman of the House Appropriations Committee, Jack Kingston from Georgia, published an epistle attacking the Fire Act program as being, as he said, quote, poorly run and an unnecessary program. Well, thankfully, he didn't win the chairmanship of that committee, and we've at least been spared his wrath from a position of leadership. Then just a few weeks ago, these new zealots in the House attempted to cut the Fire Act and zero out the SAFER program. And doing this at a time when thousands of laid-off IAFF members, where understaffing is occurring at every level within our fire service, where cities are experiencing brownouts, stations closed, companies shut down, and rifts all across this nation. These budget-cutting morons wanted to eliminate the entire program that's now brought several firefighters back to work over these last 16 months. Well, thankfully, we all pulled together, and thankfully, we had two champions in the House, Bill Pascrell of New Jersey and David Price of North Carolina. They stepped up, and they offered amendments to restore the funding to this year's level and ensure that the SAFER funds could be used to rehire layoff firefighters. There were over 400 amendments offered during the House Budget Committee floor fight. And of those 400, only 12 passed. And two of them were the Pascrell and Price amendments that brought $500 million back into our fire service and made sure that that money could be used to bring those that have been given a pink slip back to work, to hang their turnouts on their rigs one more time. No, we accomplished a lot with that battle. And we can take a moment and try to celebrate and savor that victory. But the real truth is we can't even begin to rest on our laurels, because the reality is that we just held our own and nothing more. And now the fight is in the United States Senate. And we're going to be battling the same mindsets and the same interest in trying to reduce our funding. Our enemies are trying to cut every program that's important to emergency services and fire services and homeland security and first responders initiatives in communities large and small. And mark my words, when the two USAR teams from Fairfax and LA returned last weekend from Japan, these political hypocrites were clamoring for photo ops to be taken with them, bragging about the extraordinary work that they're doing across the sea. But are they going to step up to the plate to ensure that our 28 USAR teams across this country are being adequately resourced? You know the answer to that. Hell no, they're not going to step up and give us the money. They're just going to step up and give us the lip service and then try to take the credit for it. And while we see these attacks on funding across our fire service, we're also seeing attacks in a dozen or more states on our fundamental rights, our collective bargaining rights. In New Hampshire, just the latest, 2 nights ago, they passed a bill on their budget that simply removed every impasse procedure, their entire arbitration law, and said that if the city and the union couldn't come to an agreement at the end of their contract, that all employees would become at-will employees, and that the city would have the unilateral authority to impose any salary, benefits, or working conditions it saw fit. Now, after decades of amicable resolving issues at the bargaining table, now these ideologues want to strip our members of those basic workplace rights. They're saying that they're being physically responsible. The fact is they're simply robbing workers of their opportunity to have some say in their livelihood. Our enemies claim that they're doing this in the best interest of the taxpayers. But we all know a crock of crap when we see one, and this is certainly one. This is nothing less than an assault. This is an assault not on balancing budgets, not on reducing deficits. This is about the balance of power. They want us out, and they want to have unilateral control of everything that we are about. And quite honestly, they want this union dead. And the fact is, until recently, the media was letting them get away with it. But I can tell you, we sure as hell haven't been letting them get away with it over these last couple of months. And we are fighting back, and we're fighting back with everything we have. And I've been proud of our members and our leaderships in Wisconsin and Ohio and Florida and Oklahoma, Iowa, Nebraska, Tennessee, Alabama, and in state after state where we're seeing these battles. You've watched the coverage on TV. You've seen the rallies, the marches, the protests, the sit-ins held against those who think they have a mandate to destroy all that we've worked for over all these decades. And I've been so proud of my members and leadership, and I've been proud to march with them and rally with them and to stand up with them against our political opponents and fight back. Because collective bargaining isn't about just wages and benefits. It's about safety, and it's about staffing. It's about making sure that our people get the state-of-the-art safety equipment, appropriate bunker gear, have the resources they need to do their jobs safely and effectively. Let me just give you a couple of the ugly facts that are occurring. In Ohio, Governor Kasich is pushing a 100-page bill that totally eviscerates the bargaining rights and standards that have been in place since 1983. That law has allowed our locals to bargain for joint labor management safety committees to successfully reduce injuries and improve operations. In Wisconsin, Governor Walker is repealing a bargaining law that's been in existence since 1959. 50 years, a half a century of bargaining wiped out with one act of a legislature and one stroke of the pen. That's the law that's allowed us to bargain for minimum staffing per shift and per piece. And in Michigan, Governor Snyder supports allowing the state to place a local government trustee in charge of a city or a community and flat out have complete and unilateral power. And one of the things they're promoting, the concept of public safety officer. Now, how about that? Who in this room thinks that having cops donning turnout gears and attempting to fight fires is somehow good for our fire service, good for our communities, and good for our citizens? I say no. I say hell no, it's not. But that's the mindset we're dealing with. Now, it's in New Jersey with Governor Christie, where he's threatening to eliminate local aid if jurisdictions don't voluntarily consolidate and regionalize their fire service operations. These are just a few of the concerted attacks that are taking place all over this country right now. And I know many chief officers in here, quite frankly, don't necessarily like the collective bargaining process. And I think they find it sometimes to maybe hamper their operations. They're weary of the IAFF and maybe our union in general. But I tell you what, I think that it has shown over time to not only be important to members of this IAFF, it's important to our whole profession, because what we're able to do as we work at the bottom ultimately flows to the top. And so whether you hold an IAFF membership card or not, my view is that right now we are all in this together. And it is, as President Kennedy so eloquently said, a rising tide does raise all boats. And we've been proud to at least play some small role, and hopefully an important role, to help raise that tide for all of our brothers and sisters in the fire department and in the fire service, whether you choose it as a full-time career or not. So as I wind up here, let me just take a moment to focus on one particular aspect, insidious attack that's occurring in our profession. And whether you're a new recruit just out of the academy or a 30-year chief officer, I hope you hear me loud and clear. Your pension and retirement system is under attack. And it doesn't matter whether your pension system is funded or underfunded. It doesn't matter whether it has a modest or generous benefit structure. You're under attack. This is all about the money. They don't want you to have a guaranteed retirement plan. They want you to be in charge of your own individual dollars. And then Wall Street benefits. It's the next cash cow of the stock market. Just look at what's happening in a couple of these states. Florida is attacking our pension plan when our plan is 101% funded. New York Governor Cuomo is targeting our plans even though the state fire and police plan is 108% funded. And where the funding is in trouble, most of the time it's in trouble because those that were responsible to pay their share, not the employees paying their share, failed to do so. Let's take a look at New Jersey. In the year 2000, they had a $7.5 billion surplus in the plan. The state failed to make their full actuarial payments. They skipped payments altogether. They did this for over a decade. And by 2008, with a market that crashed, they've got a liability now of $34 billion. And they want to put it at the feet of firefighters. They want to put the blame on our members. And the fact of the matter is it was caused by mismanagement. It was caused by management not standing up and doing their part. We've had to listen to those talk about shared sacrifice. How much shared sacrifice have we listened to during this economic crisis? Well, I tell you that I think you've all been sacrificing. And I've watched our affiliates, and I've watched you go back to the tables. I've watched you take the furlough days, the wage concessions, the benefit deferrals. I've watched us try to do our part. But I'll tell you today that doing our part may be one thing, but if they thought that we're going to sit back and let them destroy the retirement security of our members, then they've got another thing coming. Our pension plans were built over decades of sacrifice, your sacrifice. They forgot that you gave up so much on the front end to be able to build these plans that you need and you're entitled to at the end of a career. You paid for these benefits over the years. These are deferred wages of yours. This isn't any damn gift. This is something that you've earned. And no one that thinks they've given you anything, that's given you anything, is going to get away with that thought. I tell you that. Because we're going to stand up and we're going to fight back and protect your retirement security. Sisters and brothers, the stakes really couldn't be higher for all of us, every one of us in this great fire service of ours. And we are engaged in incredible battles all across the land. But it's also an incredible opportunity. I think it's an opportunity and a defining moment for us to continue to come together. It's a time that we're going to be able to make history. And we're going to make that history over the course of the next many months, one way or the other. And we can make the most of this fight, or we can slide into the abyss. It's really up to us, every one of us. It's up to all of you. We can't just sit back and watch this play out in the evening news. And we can't be silent. We cannot let them use the old divide and conquer technique. Let's pit one part of the fire service against the other part of the fire service. Let's make sure we divide the floor from command. If we can just get them to divide and fight among themselves, then the real enemy gets to stand on the sidelines and watch us battle it out. And we end up paying the price. No, we've got to come together and inject the truth into these debates. And more importantly, we have to commit all of our boots on the ground. This is about calling our opponents out. It is about saying that collectively we will not tolerate the fire service to be shortchanged. We're not going to tolerate cuts in the Fire Act, USAR, UASI, SAFER, and beyond. We're not going to tolerate cuts in our local fire departments. This is about all of us standing together. And as you might imagine, I know most of my remarks are normally directed toward an audience of proud union members, and I'm damn proud to be allowed and privileged to represent their interests. But I also know that many in this audience today are not members of our union. But you are a critical part of America's fire service. You are line firefighters and paramedics. You are instructors and chief officers. You are hazmat techs and EMS providers. And all of you, all of us, are part of this same family, the American Fire Service. And we are all under attack. So we see these battles around us. The storm now has arrived, and it's arrived with fury. We've got to find a way to survive this storm. I can promise to you this IAFF will fight back with every penny, every dollar, every bit of power and influence that we've got. In the old days, we used to say, come to the game with everything it takes to play the game, money, marbles, and chalk. And that's what we're going to do. I ask all of you to join with us. This is our moment to make a difference. This is our moment to be heard. This is our moment to fight back. And this is our moment that together we will win again. We will be here when they are long gone. Good luck to you. Have a great week. Thank you. And God bless every firefighter on the front line everywhere. Thank you. Thank you.
You know, to hear these comments today is important because history matters. 100 years ago in New York City, we had the Triangle Shirt Fire. That fire was responsible for the beginning of the movement to ensure that people don't work in conditions that threaten their lives. That fire made a tremendous difference to New York City, to the firefighters, but more importantly to the workers who at that point in time had no means of escape and who died tragically and needlessly. That's what the boss is talking about. Thank you. I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you, Wayne, for helping us out. Jack, oh, that's Mr. Hanafy's there. There he is. Thank you for coming. Remember, we got the fun run tonight. It's at 6 o'clock at White River Park. It's in memory of Steve Alk, if you can make it. After that, it's Stop, Drop, Rock, and Roll at the Indiana Ballroom. Please make it out there and support the National Fallen Firefighters. The Memorial Stair Climb is at 1 o'clock tomorrow, followed by the Battle of the Bands, followed by the Union Party. So in between there, try to go to classes. All right, love you all. God bless and be safe.